I believe the important question now is, who has become Visser One? We are responsible for the death of the yerk that was in that position, not Visser 3. He can't have been promoted after botching a council-ordered execution. Not even to the rank of Visser 2? Tobias said. Why not? I don't understand yerk politics, do you? I know I don't, and that's a damn good point. Visser 3 failed to kill Visser 1. Killing his fellow yerks is like the only thing he's good at. Like, imagine if you sucked at everything in life, but playing Pogs, but managed to gain a lot of fame and respect for your mad Pog skills. Then somebody approaches you and says, "We'll totally make you Secretary of State if you win this game of Pogs." So you stack your Pogs, but when you throw down your slammer, it ricochets off the stack into your open mouth, and you wind up swallowing it. As you flail your arms in panic, you wind up knocking the stack of Pogs over and into a fireplace, destroying your entire collection. Yeah, Visser 3 is exactly like that. Hey, you guys want to play Pogs?
It shows us all the places that we want to go and look.
Our book opens exactly where the last one ended, with the Animorphs on the beach using the Z-Space communicator to open a line to the Andalite fleet. The Andalite who answers has a pretty crappy attitude, but Jake has no time for small talk. "Look," he said, "we don't have much time here. This transmission could be tracked, and we have a lot to talk about. First, the Anati world situation. It's a trap. The yerks have constructed huge Dracon beam sites on all the moons. Your fleet goes there, it's obliterated." Man, where the hell's my Anati book? I want to read about what the hell the deal was with the Anati. This detail actually threw me off the first time I read it. We later learned that Eva, the former host body of Visser 1, gave the Animorphs this information, but we don't see that and it's not mentioned right away, so I was originally confused, wondering if I had missed something in the previous book. The Andalites are a little nicer after this, but are still obviously untrusting of these humans. Axe cuts in to try to give the Animorphs some credibility in the eyes of the Andalites, but Axe doesn't have the best record with the Andalite High Command. He's still taking the rap for breaking the law of Ciro's kindness and giving humans morphing technology in order to protect Elfango's reputation. "The High Command will consider your words," the officer replied. "The brother of War Prince Elfango always deserves to be heard. However, in our opinion, and given his record to date, it is also possible that Aximili Geruth Istul has confused his loyalties." Before Axe can respond to this, the yerks fly in, having tracked the Z-Space signal. The Animorphs escape successfully, but they have no idea how the Andalites are responding to their pleas of help, if they're going to respond at all. Some time passes, and Axe, Marco, and Tobias are hanging out at Axe's scoop, watching TV. Marco is pretty moody right now. Being legally dead will do that to you, and he laments on how screwed Earth is going to be once Visser 3's full-scale invasion thing kicks into gear. "I'll tell you what really gets me," Marco said, pacing. "Here we are, 6 semi-freaks busting our butts trying to prevent a full-scale alien invasion of Earth, and I bet you dollars to donuts." Tobias cocked his head. "Something your grandmother used to say?" Marco glared. "I'll bet you $1,000,000 if I had it that if the average guy on the street was told he'd better get ready, there was going to be a major war, he'd just laugh. He couldn't even believe a full-scale war was possible anymore. The average person is too content." "Would you prefer a general state of panic?" I said. It was a rhetorical question. "My point is just that people are complacent. All-out global warfare is a thing of the past. That's what people think, anyway. No one wants it, no one's ready for it, and who's going to believe Earth is about to be attacked by aliens from outer space? They think a call to arms was just a publicity stunt for that show Roswell." "Marco has a point," Tobias said. "Particularly Americans. I mean, we've got no enemies at sea, not many on land, and those aren't exactly real scary. The country's just not ready for war. Maybe it's arrogance, maybe a combination of things, but the average person on the street just doesn't think another world war is possible. This is the perfect example of how Animorphs could have only have worked in the 1990s. Between the fall of the wall and the fall of the towers, America was in the most peaceful time it had ever been since, I'd say, the early 1930s. The Cold War was over. The Soviet Union dissolved. Europe hadn't shit itself in 50 years. Japan was our buddy now, and the only major military action the US took in that time was a relatively small, relatively clean scuffle with Iraq. Now, the 1990s had a lot of crappy stuff going on, but it felt like the US was its most utopian, peace-loving state ever. I know. I was there. It was the perfect time for a body snatcher-style alien invasion, because nobody suspects anybody of anything, and our military was at its lowest alert. The updated Animorphs reprints was a foolhardy project from the start, but if by some miracle it got this far in the series, there's just no way these characters could have had this conversation in a modern time period. Now, Americans can't imagine itself without an enemy. People are shitting themselves over the possibility of having peaceful negotiations with Iran. That's how much we're willing to be enemies with people. On a side note, with that reference to the TV show Roswell, I was surprised Melinda Metz wasn't the ghostwriter this time around. No, today's ghostwriter is Ellis Donner, who you may remember as the ghostwriter of Number 30 The Reunion. In that review, I had said that that was her only book. Clearly I was mistaken. But can you blame me? There are so many ghostwriters with names that start with E. I couldn't keep track. Ellis Donner, Ellen Giroux, Erica Babone, Ellis Smith, Emily Costello. No wonder E's are so cheap in Scrabble. It's a buyer's market. Well, sadly, I haven't found anything new about Ellis Donner this time around. There's a LinkedIn profile for an Ellis Donner, but that's for a Finnish textile designer. Pretty sure that's not the same person. There's an Ellis Robertson who directed a film called Donner Pass. That's a nifty coincidence. But nay, Ellis Donner the ghostwriter is nowhere to be found. While the three guys ruminate on how hopeless things seem, part of a yerk message comes through on the Z-Space device, which I guess was on police scan mode. There's something about a Visser Two and his plan called Operation 9466 Phase 1, and it's pending approval from Visser One. They can't make out more than that. Axe's refurbished human computer isn't powerful enough, so after some debate, they decide to hack the computers at the National Security Agency and use them to decipher the signals. Of course, the NSA aren't too happy about that, but Axe has a present for them to make them more agreeable. In spite of Marco's earlier protests, he was the one who suggested we attempt to infiltrate the National Security Agency's code-breaking computer system. And it was Marco who suggested we should also install a program able to crack any possible security code conceived by humans. Needless to say, I would be the one to devise such a program. Which, in the next few moments, I did. Oh, well, now that's just beachy. It's a good thing the NSA isn't a corrupt invader of privacy, otherwise there'd be no telling what they might do with alien code-breaking technology. The Animorphs Universe version of Edward Snowden really has his work cut out for him. Well, the NSA are good sports, I guess, and let Axe mess around with their computers, and he manages to pull up a more complete message. But before we get on with this, we now know that Axe can hack the fucking National Security Agency pretty easily in the middle of the goddamn woods. It would seem to me that if any part of the American government would listen to the Animorphs, it'd be the NSA. So why aren't we compiling data on the yerks and sending them encrypted emails? The worst that'll happen is that they'll ignore it. If David had stayed a good guy, he'd been all over that plan. Sir, the hacker's code-breaking program is online. It seems to be really effective. All right, try it on that encrypted data packet we were sent last week. Let's see what that was about. Okay, I'm running it through the program, and yes, it's working. Well, what's it say? It says, come on down to the grand reopening of Dealing Dan Hawk's used car emporium? The only used car lot guaranteed protection from the Yerk Empire? What sort of joke is this? There's some fine text here, sir. It says, "Fooking elephants need not apply." So the Animorphs meet at the barn, and they go over the details. First off, yes, the promotion went through, and Visser 3 is now Visser 1. That is never not going to sound weird. Visser 2 has come up with a plan, and he's named it after Visser 1, whose yerk name is Esplin 9466. Visser 2 is kind of the ultimate suck-up, as we'll soon see. They have a set of numbers that might be longitude and latitude, but if so, then whatever's happening is happening out in the open ocean, 1,000 miles away. They also have a time, 4 o'clock that afternoon, 7 hours from now. The Animorphs simply do not have the means to get to that location in time, so they'll have to steal the means. The main theme of this book is compromise. What are you willing to compromise in the face of ultimate annihilation? How many rules are you willing to break just to give yourself 5 more minutes, to keep your loved ones safe for just 1 more day? Already we've seen some of the Animorphs break the law for just a little more processing power. And now, they're going to have to break one of their own rules. They're going to have to acquire human morphs without consent. Granted, the Animorphs were always a bit fuzzy around the edges on this issue. It started off as not morphing sentient beings, but they don't seem to give a second thought to acquiring sentient aliens. Now, if the Animorphs have any hope of slowing this down, they'll just have to completely throw this rule in the trash. They'll have to compromise. And I bet you already know who's objecting to that. Cassie spoke again. "Jake, everyone, come on. We've gotten this far without totally losing it, by following the rules of basic humanity. No one can deny that." "Yeah, Cassie, that's hilarious, because you were the first human Animorph to break this rule, when you acquired Rachel in number 12 The Reaction." "Cassie, I'd never ask you to do something you don't want to," Jake said softly. "Yeah, because Lord knows you wouldn't do it anyway." He smiled sadly. "I'm not sure I could live with myself if we didn't do all that we could." Billions of lies weighed on the ethics of 6 kids. "And I'm not sure I could live with myself if we did," Cassie answered softly. I'm okay with that. Anyone else here have any objections? No? Okay. We all agree that tainting your soul is an acceptable price to saving the world, Cassie. What was ever morally wrong with this shit anyway? As long as you're not morphing people and emptying their bank accounts or boinking their spouses, I think we're good. Well, Cassie really can't say no to the mission, just to the morphing people part, so the Animorphs fly to the nearby airbase, sneak in, find 2 pilots, and knock them unconscious. Axe morphs the male pilot, he's the only one who could possibly fly the jet, while Rachel morphs the female pilot. She won't be able to help that much, but she isn't turning down the chance to ride in a fucking fighter plane. The rest of the Animorphs morph, flee, and hide in Axe and Rachel's flight suits. They make their way out to the tarmac, knock out some maintenance guys, and hijack a jet fighter before anyone on the base realizes what's going on. They send a few planes in pursuit, but Axe's rad Top Gun skills shakes them, and the Animorphs make their way to the coordinates. There they find a group of ships, led by an aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington. Naturally, you can't approach a military convoy uninvited without rustling a few feathers, so the Washington launches a couple of planes to intercept them. The only option is to land the plane on the water. We had to go down with the plane. But how to drop the plane with us on board and survive? A nosedive would kill us instantaneously. Okay, the plane had to hit on its belly. In effect, I had to perform a controlled crash landing. The drag undoubtedly would tear the aircraft apart, but Rachel and I would have some chance of surviving, and with us, our friends. We were several miles ahead of the carrier when I began to cut back on our speed. Oh, so now you want to fly a vehicle into the water slowly? Make up your mind, Axe. Well, Axe lands it, wrecking the plane, and the Animorphs manage to get out, demorphing and remorphing a seagull. They take to the air, and Jake starts dropping some facts about the carrier. It's a Nimitz class, biggest warships in the world. built by Newport News Shipbuilding Company out in Virginia. I wasn't expecting to have to recite from memory, but okay, the first Nimitz-class carrier was deployed in 1975. Length, about 1,092 feet. Overall width, 252 feet. Area of flight deck, 4.5 acres, I think. Speed, 30 plus knots. It's a little over 34.5 miles per hour. More aircraft below, Marco prompted, on the hangar deck. Yeah, 85 or 90 total, I can't remember. Types? Well, just look down there. A variety. Depends on what the GW's out here for. Probably some FA-18C Hornets, E-2C Hawkeyes, maybe some EA-6B Prowlers, F-14D Tomcats, 4 catapults for launching, 4 aircraft elevators. Crew? Tobias asked. Between 5,000 and 6,000 total, full complement, which is rare these days. Cutbacks. What makes this thing go? Rachel asked. And so on, and so on, and so on. And man, Jake, you missed your calling as a talking head on the History Channel.